If you did not apply for foreign naturalization, then you are still a Filipino citizen. If you applied for a foreign naturalization, or for example, you applied for US citizenship, then you are deemed to have lost your Philippine citizenship and you needed to reacquire it, and it's also by choice. So it's up to you if you want to be a dual citizen or become a Filipino again. You are not obligated to become a Filipino again or reacquire Filipino citizenship. It's up to you if you wanted to be a foreign citizen living abroad or if you wanted to reacquire Philippine citizenship. If you applied for foreign naturalization and you still have a Philippine passport that is unexpired,
you cannot use that Philippine passport because it is already considered void. Please take note, if you are a former Filipino citizen, you must use your foreign passport when traveling to the Philippines. And this is also the same for all former Filipino citizens. I received an email from a former Filipino citizen, and he is now a US citizen, and he said that he made a mistake of using his Philippine passport for traveling to and from the Philippines, and he only used his US passport within the US. So please take note that you cannot do this when you are already a former Filipino citizen. You cannot use your Philippine passport even though it is still unexpired because it is already considered void. Other issues could be raised, especially when you are applying for immigration benefits in the US. For example, he mentioned that the travel records were requested to his son's US citizenship and fiancé visa in the Philippines. So he also considered applying for dual citizenship to legitimize the use of his Philippine passport, but he said that the deadline for doing so may have already passed. But he can still apply for dual citizenship, but he already made a mistake of using an invalid travel document.
however, let me provide you the misconceptions. Only those who are natural-born Filipino citizens who acquired foreign citizenship can reacquire Filipino citizenship again. Possession of Philippine passport does not make you a dual citizen. So this is the misconception. There is a Philippine law. It is Republic Act number 9225, which is the Philippine Retention and Reacquisition Act of 2003, and grants natural-born Filipino citizens to reacquire Philippine citizenship. Upon reacquiring Filipino citizenship, you will be restored to your civil, political, and economic rights as a Filipino citizen again. This law is also applicable to unmarried children, whether legitimate or illegitimate or adopted, if they are included in the parents' petition for reacquisition of Philippine citizenship. If you are 18 years old and above, you must elect Philippine citizenship if you wanted to become a dual citizen. When you travel in the Philippines, there are more rights and privileges for Filipinos. For example, if you don't have your Philippine passport, then you must present your foreign passport and 3 pages of dual citizenship documents. There are limitations if you are unable to present your dual citizenship documents. You will be treated as a balikbayan or a former Filipino if you are unable to present the Philippine passport, dual citizenship documents. Who are natural-born Filipinos? Those who are citizens of the Philippines from birth without having to perform any act to acquire or perfect their Philippine citizenship. These are persons born after January 17, 1973, whose fathers or mothers are citizens of the Philippines at the time of their birth, or those born before January 17, 1973 to a Filipino father or mother, and that person elects Philippine citizenship upon reaching the age of majority, which is 18. What are the rights and privileges of being a dual citizen? First is the right to travel. Filipinos have the right to travel
But generally, Filipinos can travel as long as you have the necessary immigration requirements. During the pandemic, Filipinos have less restrictive travel protocols for quarantine and testing purposes. In addition, you can stay indefinitely in the Philippines because you are a Filipino. Another right is the right to own land and property in the Philippines. Generally, there is a prohibition to own land among foreign nationals. Another right is the right to engage in business or commerce as a Filipino. Another right is the right to practice a profession. Make sure to comply with the requirements of the appropriate body or agency. Another right is the right to vote in Philippine national elections. Can one who requires Filipino citizenship vote in the Philippines? Yes, if you have required Filipino citizenship, you may vote in the elections provided that you comply with the residency requirements under existing Philippine election law. However, you can also vote abroad in Philippine national elections such as president, vice president, senators, and sectoral representatives under the Overseas Voting Act of 2003. Now, you can only elect officials in the national elections but not local elections. In addition, your passport do not need to be valid for 6 months at the time of arrival. Also, you don't need a return ticket for 30 days. For all dual citizens, please take note of this important requirement if you have a dual passport when entering. All passengers who use these travel documents upon arrival and were admitted under the same status shall be required to present the same during departure. Accordingly, if you use a travel document, you will also be required to present the above documents during departure.
Let's talk about the implication on income taxes. Are you going to be taxed abroad if you are a Filipino citizen or not?
So what is the effect of dual citizenship on the payment of income taxes? This is one of the most important questions because a lot of Filipinos are planning to retire in the Philippines. Under RA 8424, only income derived from the Philippines are taxed by the Philippine government. In 1976, however, the Philippines and United States signed a treaty on taxation in order to avoid double taxation for Filipinos who derive income from the U.S. and for Americans who derive income from the Philippines. However, please consult the IRS regarding taxation. If you are a U.S. citizen or a resident alien, the rules for filing income, estate, and gift tax returns and paying estimated tax are generally the same whether you are in the U.S. or abroad. Your worldwide income is subject to U.S. income tax regardless of where you reside. So please remember this. If you're a U.S. citizen, wherever you are in the world, you must file an income tax return. However, there are income requirements.
Under the Comprehensive Tax Reform Act of 1997, income earned by Filipinos abroad are no longer subject to Philippine income tax. Hence, all Filipinos abroad, including those who have reacquired Philippine citizenship, have been exempted by the Philippine government from paying Philippine income tax on income earned abroad. However, if you are a dual citizen and you decide to live permanently in the Philippines and you were able to generate income, then the income you received in the Philippines will be subject to income tax. Let me know your thoughts regarding dual citizenship. If you have any other questions or comments, please post them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thank you guys for watching and for supporting my channel. And if you haven't liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. Thank you guys for watching. I hope everyone is staying safe and have a great day.